Hi, everybody. Okay, so I think I'm live. Yes, I am. I am. Hi. I don't think anybody has joined quite yet. Okay, actually, I think two people have joined. Hello. So welcome to the end of the FuckAthon, the end of the FuckAthon weekend. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for joining. Hi, how are you? Welcome to the end of the Fuckathon weekend. I hope everybody did have some fun reading, um, and that it was partly cathartic and also an escape from the world we're currently living in and all the things we're dealing with. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for joining. Yay. Hi, Alicia. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, I just it's I think it's very interesting, right? To give your context, right? I did start the Fuckathon 3 years ago. Has it been 3 years? I think it has been more than 3 years. This is the fourth year, right? I think this is the fourth year of the Fuckathon. The very first one I did hold in 2018. And then there was one in 2019. I did one last year and then this year. And I almost did not have the Fuckathon this year because one, um, yes, Sarah, people are popping in. It's making me so happy. So yes, I was saying that I almost did not hold the Fuckathon this year because this year has been quite an interesting one. And I think that this is a global thing, right? We can all um, both with regards governments and also the economy and also the um, health sector in the various countries and just even our personal lives as well. It has been quite the year for us, 2022. So I almost didn't hold the Fuckathon this year, but but um I was like, even if it is that I don't have the capacity to have it for the entire month, what if we did a weekend? And I'm actually very happy about the fact that we were able to do it. So thank you so much for coming with me on the ride. Sorry, I keep burping. Thank you for coming with me on the ride. I know it was very, very short notice. And thank you for being here this evening. I was prepping and putting together things for the Fuckathon and trying to get in the right headspace. And then I go on Twitter because I wanted to tweet a reminder about the fact that the Fuckathon live show would be on live pretty soon. Let me show you because I know you all like seeing him. There's Compop. 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 Yes, I know. You know I'm calling you. Hey, baby. Hmm? There you go, baby. Okay, so because I know you all like seeing him. Um, so I was on Twitter because I was about to tweet, reminder about the live show, and then I find out that Michelle Nichols, who plays Lieutenant Uhura, Nyota Uhura in the first, the OG Star Trek, passed away today. And I was, because for me, Star Trek has been a depiction of the kind of future that we could have, that we could aspire to. One that was free of discrimination, one where mankind and humanity was focused more on exploring and, you know, interacting with aliens and different life forms, right? And trying to coexist with them all, even whilst having an adventure. Like that had always been Star Trek for me. Star Trek was an ideal or is an ideal. And seeing O'Hara on Star Trek was just like, that's a black woman who is clearly sure, like she's not literally traveling to space because it's film, but she's depicting a character who is in space, and I find the thought of space fascinating. I was just not the best science student, but I did find the thought of space fascinating, and all of this to say that I am currently in mourning because Nicole's passed away. I am grateful and thankful that she did live long enough. And I'm always going to be grateful and thankful for what the representation that she gave Black girls on Star Trek. And yeah, so that's it. But once again, thank you so much for joining. I will move on to the questions of what did we read? If you participated in the FuckAthon weekend, what book did you read? Did you enjoy it? What were the things you were able to take away from it? I would really love to hear your thoughts and have that feedback. So drop it in the comments. Whilst you are all thinking about that, let me go first. The book I picked for Fuck Authoritarianism was The Wrath and the Dawn by Rennie Adier, because of the fact that the premise of the story basically had a king that was murdering young girls every morning, and then you had our lead character Shazad decide to volunteer to be this king's bride for the sole purpose of killing him because he had killed her best friend a couple of weeks prior. And I was like, oh yes, like, because clearly, of course, we know that The Wrath of the Dawn is an adaptation of 1001 Nights, which is one of my, I love that story. I love Scheherazade. And I was like, okay, so this is a great adaptation. It would be nice to see exactly how Renee Adier takes it. Is she going to dwell on, establish just how much of an authoritarian um, ruler Khalid is, and then I knew that there was a romance to the story. So my assumption is that, oh, she goes, she wants to take down this authoritarian role, revolutionize things, change things, create a better city for her people. And eventually, of course, get that happy ending because, of course, she's not going to kill him. There's a undercurrent of romance in there. And then I read The Wrath and the Dawn, and I would say that, I don't really think it fits fuck authoritarianism. And I think that that's the second question I wanted to ask. Like, did the book you chose, do you think it actually fits the prompt? Because I think that because of the circumstances, and I'm not going to go into details for those that might still want to read the book, because of the circumstances with regards what happened with Shahzad, and Khalid's own past and the reason behind the death, because we knew that there was a reason, although in the OG one, it was not Khalid's reason, clearly not. Um, so it was clearly not that. And I'm like, okay, so clearly Khalid is not an authoritarian, even though because of circumstances, it does appear to be one. But I would say though that eventually, because I ended up not only reading The Wrath and the Dawn, because it was a very quick, easy read, which is saying a lot because I've not really been reading a lot of late. It was very fast, quick read. So Wrath and the Dawn, and then I read The Rose and the Dagger because it's a duology. So I picked it up. I read the second book in the series, and I would say that, of course, eventually we did have a city that um saw the dawn, right? That hopefully is going to move into a period of abundance and healing, right? And healing for the people of Ray, which is of Ray, which is the city, and Khorasan, which is the name of the empire, which I had a problem with, right? Because I was like, okay, I'm picking a book that was saying fuck authoritarianism, and sure, it does have romance undertones, but at the same time, I did want to see, one, Khalid actually. He took ownership, but he did not take ownership in the presence or in the presence of the people to whom he had created such an injustice. And I guess that because of the kind of world and society we live in, we're so used to having terrible leaders who then things get sorted out behind closed doors, and then everybody just pretends like it never happens. And that is what we are currently perceiving, seeing in reality in the real world. And I wanted more. So that's just to say that for the book I chose, I wanted more. It was a quick read. It was fun. It was interesting. But for the prompt, I think it could have done better, but it's not Renee Adie's fault. It wasn't like I told her that write a book, focused on fuck authoritarianism. So I cannot blame her for that. Alicia said, still working on this. Figured it's a non-fiction about people with disabilities and fairy tales. So have you finished it? Or because my perception is that you're still reading it, so you're not really done yet, so you cannot necessarily speak too much to it. Hi, Whitney. For those that are just joining, what I had asked was, could we please put in the comments, what book did you choose for the FuckAthon weekend? What were your thoughts? Did you enjoy it? And the second question was, did you think it fits the prompt? Because that's the thing, right? We're picking books because our assumption is that it should fit the prompt based off of a surface understanding. It's hitting certain bits. So, of course, it should fit the prompt of authoritarianism. But did it actually do so? Like for me, it partly did. Like the Wrath and the Dawn partly did, but it did not go all the way through. Also especially because I really wanted to see what life was in Khorasan after the authoritarianism of the circumstance that led to Khalid killing all the young girls. After that circumstance was done, I wanted to see that empire flourish. And I think that Renee Adie was more focused with the romance. And so what we got in the epilogue was an epilogue, like a conclusion to the romance, as opposed to the people who were suffering, which was what I wanted to see more of. But that's it. Sarah said, I started Everfair, was hoping to finish it before the live. It was more colonialism focused. Yeah. That's Nisi Shaw's Everfair, right? I also have that on my shelves. Interestingly enough, I have been meaning to read that book for years. I think it's one of the oldest books I have on my shelf. Not as old as Wrath and the Dawn and Rose and the Dagger, which is why I picked those, because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use this opportunity to read some of the oldest books I've had, and I've not gotten around to reading them. But yes, it is more colonialism focused. But at the same time, colonial powers and the colonialists did exercise authoritarian control over the regions and the people that they were out there colonizing. So in a way, it does still kind of fit with the prompt. So but then again, like you said, you're just starting, you've not finished it yet. So maybe, fingers crossed that it does have that resolution. Well, like I said, even the one I picked did not fully give me the resolution I wanted. So there is that. Sarah, I really wanted to participate, but too stressed out, exhausted, and busy lately. Perfectly fine, especially because, like I said, like the world the world we're presently living in does have that, right? It does have that. And that is, I think that, we are either dealing with authoritarian governments, authoritarian lawmakers, authoritarian presidential figures, then outside of that, authoritarian bosses. My present boss, like my past boss, I've worked with authoritarian bosses. So people are dealing with authoritarian places of employment. So people are dealing with, like even in the healthcare and the health industry, there's also that. So I'm not surprised by that. Just take the time to relax and rest. Thank you for joining the live show. And I would also state that even the decision to take a break and take that time for yourself is you also fucking authoritarian control, because you're like, okay, you might like society as is and government as is and lawmakers and trash people and trash bosses as they are, might think that they have that control. So you deciding that I'm going to do something for myself, I'm going to step back, I'm going to take this moment to rest and heal. I still consider it a fuck you to any form of authoritarian force that believes that they can force you to do things that you shouldn't. So in a way, you're still meeting the prompt. Khorasan is, yes, Khorasan is, I think, like the way in which I don't know if I would say modern day Afghanistan. I think that she was actually, and she being Rene Adie, I think she was trying to recreate like Asian Persia. Um did she succeed? I think that some of the vivid imagery and the way in which she described like the foods, the sights, that's why I think that she was going for modern, like more ancient Persia than modern day Afghanistan, even though you could see elements of modern day Afghanistan in it. Sorry, I don't know. I've been burping of late. Like I'm very gassy. It's weird. Alicia goes, it's really interesting that the parts I've read so far, being someone with a disability myself, I never realized how much disability was frowned upon in fairy tales. Interestingly enough, now that you've mentioned it, because I'm thinking about it and I'm like, yeah, right? I'm trying to think like the fairy tale that immediately comes to mind for me, for example, would be Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? And just the way in which Quasimodo was seen and treated. You get that, right? You definitely do see that, and which is funny, not funny, but which is sad. That's the word I'm looking for. Like, how on earth did I go from I want to say sad and then it's funny that comes out of my mouth, my brain weird. But which is sad because when you consider the fact that fairy tales did play a very huge part in our formative years and are also connected to the way in which we saw the world as a child. And then we grew up with those thoughts, right? With those thoughts and emotions and feelings. When you consider all of that about fairy tales, to realize just to ostracize disabled folks, right? Or depict them in a way that just like it's either their characters to be pitied, like Quasimodo, pitied but not loved romantically, or they are the vile evil people that you should be suspicious about. Like fairy tales can like very ableist, and some of them are very ageist as well. And don't get me started on the fact that fairy tales do not like people who are ugly or not conventionally attractive, because that is something else. And it is just wild. It's wild and it's very, 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 very vile and very troubling because you have lots of young children reading them and then and like I said, if you consider just the role they play and how important they are to our formative years and the fact that it is these people with these policies and these beliefs, like these are the stories they read as children, then I think it does also like that representation or misrepresentation in fairy tales is something that we also see visible like in the life, like in everyday life, even now that we've grown up, because kids read stuff and they internalize stuff even when they don't know, and it's just sad. It's sad, really. I didn't participate, but I wanted to watch the live show. Thank you so much, Whitney. Thank you for joining us, and that's amazing. Hi, Sloan. I finished Bitter. You finished Bitter? Okay. I finished Bitter by Quickly Amazing about 10 minutes before this live stream. I really enjoyed the ethics that the book brought up. I still don't 100% know where I fall. Definitely fits the prompt. Thank you so much. I do think that and I think that it's very interesting because when I think about it with regards like Akweke Mezi, and I think that it's also something that they reflect in their writing because they grew up in Nigeria, right? They and their younger sister Yagazie Emezi is a photographer who spends half their time in Nigeria and then in Lagos. Um, and I think that most Nigerians, especially when you have a level of self-awareness, and also not just self-awareness, but also just basic awareness, and you can see the kind of like country we live in, the policies that are being pushed, what the average Nigerian thinks, what the not so average Nigerian thinks, what Nigerians in power think, what Nigerians with wealth think, you would realize just how much of an authoritarian system has been put in place and keeps being enforced. The average, like most Nigerians are suffering from various levels of PTSD, and we just don't know it, right? And I think that just that awareness, it's even worse when you're queer. And I think that that awareness, Akweke Emezi does bring it into their books, starting with Freshwater all the way to Bitter. Like, I'm not surprised that it does fit the prompt because it's something that they would nail, right? Right? Um, I think I'm going to reread Lady Midnight. No matter what people say, Cassandra Clare's books are a fun time. Yes, they are. The only thing I would say is I read for characters, mostly one character in particular. Thank you, because we all know. I know for your character, I know which character you're talking about, but you know what character I'm talking about because, like, he's big. Julian Blackthorne is big. Okay, sorry. Um, not just disability but also age and lack of beauty. Exactly, it's like I said, like some fairy tales can be very ageist, some of them can also like be, they are upholding these beauty standards, and it's just so troubling, right? It's just so troubling, and I think that that's something else that, even when even when it is that they are pushing back against the system, they have to look a certain way, they have to be a certain way, and I'm like so many people should and rightfully would be involved in this fight beyond the ones that are conventionally attractive. But yeah, fairy tales. Vita is really good, but I read it maybe a month ago. Very thought provoking. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. In fairy tales, also there is an association with age slash ugliness or whatever else is considered unappealing with duplicity. Like the characters are trying to trick your egg, like the characters are trying to trick you. Example, Rumpelstiltskin. Exactly. Right? Exactly. And of course, it's also very ironic that it is these characters that are trying to trick you that usually do have this immense power and seem like the authoritarian figures in your life, forgetting the fact that, like, beauty does not necessarily mean being a good person. And I think that that is something that, like, people need to remember, or that needs to be addressed with fairy tales, especially the ones we enjoyed growing up, this association. And that's the reason why it is so easy for people to forgive the most horrendous things performed by the most beautiful people, because we do not necessarily understand just the um just how exactly we internalize those messages that we were given when we were much younger through these tales, right? Rumpelstiltskin is definitely old and does not look attractive, and like you mentioned, is duplicitous. And of course, the person who is being duped is usually young and innocent and beautiful, and all the things that are associated with that. And I always find that very troubling. I remember reading a comic that you recommended. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the character had the cerebral palsy, and their crutches were their superpower. Ooh, wait, this sounds very familiar. This sounds very familiar, but I don't know. Like, my brain also is like all frizzy. But yes, if I remember, can I remember? Hold up, can I remember? I'm trying to remember. If I remember, I'll mention it, right? Okay, let me see. I can't remember. Uh, but if I remember, I would cross that. I would mention that. Um, Let me see. I mean, I like most of the characters in Late Midnight, but I do have a favorite, which Whispers. Julian is great. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Alicia, I think it's was it? It was my video. It was my video with the African comics I wanted to read. Right? Kamza. I think it's Kamza. I think it's Kamza. Let me put it in the chat so you could. So for those that want to see it, yes, there you go. hmm I've dropped that in the chat. So, Kamsa is the name of the comic. Really great, and that's the thing, like, right? Because I always think that a lot of the times, like, why are stories, and it's like I would say, okay, wait, hold up. Yes, it was fantastic. I keep on looking to see if there's another volume of it. They've not created another volume yet. I think that the problem is usually based off of demand, right? And also because African artists, in telling their stories, you need the backing of like big publishers to be able to make to be able to make multiple volumes of your comics. And a lot of African comics and writers and artists, even comic houses, don't necessarily have that, unfortunately. So usually we get one solid volume. If we're lucky, maybe we'd get two, and we're thankful for that, and we keep reading and rereading it. So there is that. Even to this day, when villains are played by odd actors, the fandoms to jump through all the hoops to justify and forgive their horrific actions. Shadow and Bone, Ben Walls. Okay, sorry. I'm, I'm a mess. I'm a mess. Sorry. But yeah, but to be fair, and that's the thing, right? Because sorry, because fandoms are like that. But at the same time, I wonder if we can be slightly more. I wonder if I should be slightly more forgiving, because once again, media, books, right, movies, TV shows, video games, manga, comics, all of these things are all escapist fiction. So of course you can be like, oh, I'm crushing on rate on, because I have a lot of friends that are big radio fans, like big radio fans. Do they like see exactly like the abusive tendencies present in it? Yes, but they're also huge radio fans, right? And I think that sometimes you have to also remember, and of course, I'm quick to be like, oh, this, but also I also wonder if, like, not wonder, but I also tell myself that I need to extend some grace, right? Because it's escapist fiction, and if they're like, oh, this hot guy, this bad guy is so hot, and they're self-aware enough to be like, I know if this bad guy was ugly, because once again, fandom does not like ugly characters or ugly people, even the world, right? What might call it? Yes, like if this bad guy was ugly, then I would not be such a big fan of this character. I would not be a big fan of this ship, etc., etc. So I keep that in mind when I think about it. And like it's another thing when I was reading The Wrath of the Dawn and The Rose and the Dagger, because which were the two books I picked for the FuckAthon weekend. Because when I was reading it, and a part of me I was like, oh yes, this is enjoyable, but there's a speed with which Shazad falls for Khalid, who is meant to be the monstrous king that she was planning on killing in the book. There's a speed with which she falls for him, and I was like, girl, you're falling for him because he's fine. Like that's it. You have forgotten all about vengeance. You've forgotten about taking revenge for your best friend, even though technically that's not necessarily what your best friend would have wanted. But you don't even know, like, at the point when she started falling for him, she did not know the secret. She did not know why he had done what he had done, right? And of course, when we move on to the why, we understand as like readers. But at that point in time, she didn't know that, but she was already falling for him, and it was because he had great cheekbones, he had great, lovely, lovely amber colored eyes, and he was fine. And I'm like, girl, I understand. Do not pretend that it's not because it's fine, but I understand. So yes, I do feel this. Okay, I want to get more into comics, but I don't always love superhero stuff. Well, you can always read like um comics, like non-superhero comics, right? There are comics that don't have superhero. Like, for example, Saga that we're reading together, right, on Patreon. It's not as if that has superheroes. So you can always read. I might actually let me know. I might actually create a recommendation list sometime like later, right? Of like my favorite non-superhero comics that I've read and really, really enjoyed. Maybe you might consider checking them out as well. I was thinking the same thing, Noria, cough, the Darkling. I know, right? Like, if the Darkling had not been played by Ben Barnes in the TV show, the number of people that would not have shipped him, because the number of people that shipped him with Elena, um, because it's played by, did I just say Elena? Sorry, Alina, because it was played by Ben Barnes. Like, they were already shipping them together in the book, because in the book it was described as being very, very hot. And then he now got played by Ben Barnes, and they're like, "Ah, Darkling, we love the Darkling. The Darkling is amazing." I'm like, I see him. Like, I see you. Um, I've been blown away by all of Akweke's writing. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I appreciated the context you've put their work into. Of course, my pleasure. My pleasure. Like I said, they are one of my absolute favorite, absolute one of my absolute favorite writers, and I am always supporting. Like, I think every time I discover an African writer, right? Actually, first, every time I discover a Nigerian writer, a queer Nigerian writer whose words and whose storytelling I really love, I'm like, I am going to read every single book you wrote because you are fantastic. And then every time I discover a queer African writer, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. And I think that everybody needs to read an Akweke music book, because they keep hitting it out of the park and keep doing great, great work. And that just makes me so bloody happy. Please do direct video at Watch It in a Heartbeat. I think I would, actually. Okay, so I would, let me write it down so I do not forget, because I do forget sometimes. Okay, so fave non superhero comics you should absolutely read. Okay, so I would add that, right? I will add that to the list. To be fair though, right? To be fair, just know that Sandman is going to wait. Hold up. For those that have read the Sandman series, like comics by Neil Gaiman, I don't think it counts as superhero. So of course it's meant to be number one on my list. But let me know, like, do you all think? Because I don't think so. Sure, Dream has powers, but Dream is not a superhero. He's decidedly not a superhero. So let me know. Like, let me know in the comments as well. This is sort of beside the point, but I don't even think that fast. Ah! Oh my God, Sarah. Do you know the amount of people that will be like, they're like scandalized, because a lot of people do believe that Ben Barnes is hot. I personally think that he was hotter in wait, hold up, let me see. It was very hot. It was, let me see, let me see. Hold up. I think it was hotter in The Punisher. Yeah. Because when he was playing Billy the Butte, I think it was kind of hotter in The Punisher. But I can see why. I can see why they like lose their mind and go gaga over him. It's the same thing with Kylo Ren. I'm like, sure, it's okay, but I don't know if I would consider him absolutely fine. But a lot of people do like that man. I can't remember what's his name. Oh my god! Does anybody want to guess that? I I think the very last Star Wars movie I did not watch it. I didn't watch it because I was just like, sorry, my favorite characters were not necessarily having the limelight. So I'm going to check. Adam, because I was about to say Adam Sandler, and I'm like, it's not Adam Sandler, it's Adam Driver. Thank you, Alicia. Because I just checked. I just checked. I was like, oh my god, is he Adam Sandler? But no, it's Adam Driver. Yes. Um, but yes. I haven't read Salmon yet, but I bought the bind up recently, so I'm going to be reading it soon. Would love to hear your thoughts when you get through it. I like the okay, I finished reading the book and this is my thought. I just like hearing that. Okay. So have you seen Captain Hook from Once Upon a Time? Yeah, sure. I have. I watched Once Upon a Time for a while, for a long, 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 long while. And I do think that oh, what's the name of the guy that plays Captain Hook? Oh, give me a second. Look at me. I have to just check Google because I'm just like, ah, okay. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. What was the guy? Colin. Yes, O'Donoghue. Yes, I do think that. I think it's actually. Are you like pointing at that? You think is more attractive than Ben Barnes? Is that it? Is that it? Hold up. Um, Sorry, I'm checking. Getting someone is sending me mail, and I need to confirm. Mm-hmm. So yes. Oh, okay, 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 okay. So well, yeah, I do think he's interesting. I think he's attractive. To be quite honest, one of my favorite ships in Once Upon a Time is Captain Swan because I really did live for his. I don't know why my internet keeps breaking. I don't know, my internet keeps breaking. Okay. I also did live for Emma's relationship with Regina because I was like, if y'all are not going to give me a queer sapphic, relationship, Captain Swan was not a bad choice after that. Let me see. I love Neil Gaiman though, so I'm probably going to love it. I think that Neil Gaiman, not I think Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite authors. So I live for his stories, but especially because, and I think that I am obsessed with Sandman because of the fact that it was my first Neil Gaiman story. It got me hooked on comics and it was just divine. I still plan on getting the omnibus someday and having it in my library because it is one of my favorite. Um, but yes, so still speaking on fuck authoritarianism, right? And exactly our prompt for the fuckathon. The next question I wanted to ask, and this is just to generally to everybody currently in the live, how are you currently coping with the state of the world, right? How are you currently coping with the state of the world? Um, I'll go first. Sometimes I just want to scream. Sometimes I want a meteor to just hit her, like just hit her and everything is over in like 0.2 seconds. Sometimes I wish I had a bathtub because I just want to fill it with water, go underneath it, and just scream. Sometimes I wish I could just run and just keep running and not stop running and just run until I run out of my skin, run out of this existence, just run. But most days, I sit down, I pick a book, I read. When my rage peaks, because there have been some really stupid shit. Like stupid shit has been happening, of course, because that's what happens when we have insensitive, self-serving pieces of shit in government, making rules and making laws and enforcing things that they have no business doing and just making life terribly hard for everybody. Um, on days when that rage peaks and hits like its highest point, I just I play video games. And because my favorite video games involve shooting or killing people, like shooting people or killing them with like magic or stuff. Like I just play video games. I'm currently doing yet another replay of Dragon Age Inquisition. This is I think like my fourth replay. Right. Yes, my fourth playthrough. No, sorry, my fifth. This is my fifth playthrough of Dragon Age Inquisition. I just finished yet another playthrough for Mass Effect, for the Mass Effect trilogy, and that's what I've been doing. So I guess how have you all been coping with the present state of the world? That's the question I have. Alicia, I've just been reading and watching Fluff. Like I just started my rewatch of Sailor Moon. That is great. Oh my god. You just reminded me. I need to start my okay. There are so many things I've restarted. I've never been this is the one thing I am grateful about having a VPN for, because VPN just opens a world of possibilities for me on Crunchyroll. Right? So I'm doing a rewatch. Sorry. Why do I keep burping? What on earth? Like I'm so gassy today. I don't know what is happening. I'm currently watching I'm watching Yu Yu Hakusho, the English dubbed, because I was like, I would never watch Yu Yu Hakusho. I would never watch any anime English dub. I always prefer it subbed. But then everybody was like, "What do you mean you've never watched the English dub of Yu Yu Hakusho? You need to do that now." And that's what I'm currently watching, and it's just been a delight. Like it's been a delight, right? Yorumeshi, Yusuke, Kuwabara, Botan, like these characters hold my heart and would always hold my heart, and it's been fun. And now you've mentioned Sailor Moon, so I'm considering adding a rewatch of Sailor Moon to my list as well, because we have to find joy where we can, right? We have to find joy where we can. Day by day, week by week, sometimes I just close my bedroom door, shut out to the outside world, and sleep. I feel that. I feel that. I think it gets so overwhelming. The world as it is, as it exists, just it gets so overwhelming, and it's exhausting and it's tiring, and it's just trying to get by day by day is exhausting. So I can see why you will just go in and just sleep. I can see that. I can see why that is. I also watch crime shows and The Max Singer. Ooh, crime shows, crime shows. Now that you've mentioned, because I'm like, huh, what was the last time I watched a crime show? It was weird. It's been a while. I think I wanted to start. Which show did I want to start? Not Rizzoli and Isles. There was another one I wanted to start. I can't remember. Or should I start now? I don't want to watch, like, sorry, I was watching Rizzoli and Isles for a very long time, and then I got upset because I was like, they're just quite beating me and it's offensive, and then I stopped. I just feel heavy and hungry all the time, but I feel like I've found enough people online that makes this flicker of hope in me burning, and I try to hold on to that. Please do. Please do. I think, and like, as much as the fact that we're in this very digital world, right? That just is so immersive. As much as sometimes I worry about that, other times I'm like, all my friends are online. My friends, the people I talk to, the people I chat to, the people, because I find it interesting, and I don't know if it's the same for everybody else, but there's a performative thing, there's a performance I have to put up with people in everyday life, right? Because, like, when it is that you feel the full force of authoritarianism, there's just something about everybody putting on this mask and just going through life like that, not being honest, not being truthful, um, discovering that you just keep swallowing shit, like just keep swallowing things. And then, but when I'm online, especially when I'm with like my friends and people who know me, people for whom I've removed that mask, and I allow myself to be more vocal about the things that matter to me, I feel like that escape, that relief, that escape, that relief. Um, but also, I think it's also driven by the fact that a lot of my friends are not in Nigeria anymore. Matter of fact, I think all my friends, none of my friends are here anymore. I seem to be the only one still around. So it's sad. And then when you also consider the fact that it is because of this present system of government and how it is that it's working, how it is that it's driven, and these people that have no respect for our lives, what we want, who we are, they just don't care. These people in government, they do not give a shit, and so everybody's just leaving. So yeah, that's yet one more thing I would lay at the feet of this government. They're taking my friends away from me. I do feel like I need at least a handful of friends that I can physically meet up with if I don't want to look at it. And you should, and I sincerely hope that you're able to maintain those friendships. Because that's the thing I've realized. Like when you're so used to existing only as your true self online, you find it very difficult to be anything like to let that part of you show in person. And if you have friends that are still close enough for you to be able to meet, for you to be able to chat, you absolutely should do that. You absolutely should do that. I think living the best way we possibly can is one of the best and strongest form of protest we can we can have in this present world, right? I think it's the strongest form of protest that we can have. And I sincerely hope that if you're currently watching this live show, whether you're right now watching it or you're watching it later when it goes up on my channel, um, I sincerely hope that you continue to live the best life you can for yourself, because we're currently being governed by idiots who do not care. who would rather impose their will and their desires on us and trying to live a life we find fulfilling in the way in which we can. Just trying to survive and trying to live is a big fuck you to that system and everything it stands for. So I think you should do that. I think we should do that. You know, it's so weird. I was talking to, when I was putting together my announcement for the FuckAthon weekend, and someone was like, "Oh, yo, no, yeah, then does that mean that there wouldn't be uh, a group pick, a group book, right, and everything else?" And I was like, "Nah, not really. Like, I could see why you would want a group book, also because group books are great for live show conversations because that's what we discuss. Oh, did you finish the book? What were your thoughts? What were the things? What did we think the writer was trying to say? Did we agree with it? Did we disagree with it? Yada yada yada. There's room for that. But I knew I did not have the capacity to read more than a book for the Fuckathon weekend. I surprised myself by reading 2 books, but that was also because the books I chose were very easy reads. But I knew I did not have the capacity for more because I barely had the capacity for one. But I also wanted this live show to be the avenue to let people currently watching to let them know that you are not alone in this. And no matter what the system, and no matter how the system tries to make you feel powerless, because let's be real, authoritarian systems tend to do that, right? They tend to do that a lot. And no matter how it is that they try to crush our spirit, take away our hope, take away our choices, take away everything, there's a part of us that they never would be able to take away. There's a part of us that fights, that struggles, that pushes back. But there's also a part of us that needs the community to know that we are not alone in this fight. We're not alone in just trying to survive, in trying to thrive in our own little way. And I wanted to create that. And I just a tiny bit. I hope it's been able to do so. But yeah, I did mention on Twitter that this was not going to exceed an hour for the live show because it's Sunday night. Depends on where you are in the world. I know that right now, like it's almost 10 p.m. my time. And I know that Sarah, it's almost 11 p.m. her time. And I didn't want to go overboard because tomorrow is the start of a new work week. And, fuck capitalism. Fuck the fact that you need a job to survive. Fuck the fact that we do not live in a society where like at least the basics are provided for. Like you don't need a job to pay your rent, to get food, to get clothing, to get shelter. Like it is sad that that is not the system that exists right now. That we have to work. But at the very least, we have community and we have people and we have company and we have books. We have books and they are lovely, lovely to behold and lovely to lose ourselves in. And I sincerely hope that quite a lot of us were able to do that today, or rather throughout this weekend, starting Friday. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you for joining, and I'm happy that I was able to create that space and I was able to give you something that you needed. And I hope that you hold that in your heart, you hold that with you as you go into the week, as you go into the new month. That's another thing I forgot. Tomorrow is also the start of a new month. Happy new month. We're in August. We are in August. We made it to August. We made it. We're past 7 months this year. We are entering the 8th month of the year. 2022 is flying by, and so many governments are pushing out so many stupid policies, are playing so many stupid games, trying to play with our lives. But we're here and we're still living, and we're still going to continue to live, and we're going to thrive, because fuck all their asses. Fuck them. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm happy. I'm happy I was able to do this. I'm happy you all are able to join. But I think that I'm going to be wrapping up the live show at this point. I hope that everybody listening, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I hope it goes swimmingly well. I hope you have a great week ahead. I hope that there are moments that make you laugh, that make you smile, that ease the burden of what it is to be presently living in the world as it is today. And I hope that you have a fantastic month. I hope August is a month that is sweet and kind and amazing to you. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining me. I would wrap this up now, and I would say I'll see you next time. For those who mentioned at the reading sprint we had on Friday, I would be having more reading sprints, because I think that I like the chance to just sit and pick a book, any book, and just read with you all. So I think I would be doing that more frequently, maybe once a month, once every other month. Um, some people are like, we want it to be spontaneous, so don't have like a fixed time, just have it happen, right? And I might have it happen, and sometimes I might give a heads up and be like, okay, who wants to join me for a reading sprint tomorrow at so time, blah blah blah, and I'll put it up. So there is that. I could do that, but it would be fun, and I hope sincerely that we're all in this together. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm singing. Oh Lord, I'm singing. That is what happens when I get so tired. I start to sing. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. And I will see you all next time soon. Bye.